Good morning again. A very warm welcome to all of you for this very special occasion, the global launch of the Social, Emotional and Ethical Learning Curriculum. As His Holiness has been bringing to our awareness for a long time now, that there is a very important gap in the way we are educating our youth, not only here in India, but all across the world. The Dalai Lama Trust and the Emory University came forward to meet this need with a K-12 curriculum that's at once universal and at the same time open for local adaptation. Vana Foundation provided crucial support in testing it out in the Indian context, and now, in organizing this launch, I invite representatives from each of these seminal organizations to come and say a few words.
Last few weeks, some problem. No secret, nothing.
No, he says there is no secret. No, I'll tell you there is a secret.
May I invite Mr. Tempa Sering from the Dalai Lama Trust?
Good morning, everyone. Your Holiness, Mr. Manish Sisodia, Deputy Chief Minister and Minister of Education, Delhi Government, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel Peace Laureate, may I, on behalf of the hosts organizing this event this morning, Emory University, Vana Foundation, and the Dalai Lama Trust, welcome you all to this groundbreaking event to launch the secular ethics, which is often referred to, but today we call it social, emotional, and ethical learning. Your Holiness, we have here today educationists, civil society leaders, philanthropists, and students from 37 countries, 104 schools. We have also here today representatives of educational institutions and organizations who are either involved or have contact in education of 11,862 schools, mostly in India. Friends, we are gathered here for the next 2 days to deliberate, to discuss, and to strategize for the realization of an issue that concerns the future well-being and happiness of humanity. It is in view of this important issue, curricula on social, emotional, and ethical learning was prepared by the Emory University on behalf of His Holiness the Dalai Lama with his guidance, inspiration, and support. His Holiness believes that as a result of modern scientific and technological developments, we have made tremendous development and progress in the fields of infrastructure, communication, and many other fields. And these have certainly brought in more physical comfort and convenience. But have you truly become and correspondingly become happier, more contented? Unfortunately, as we all are aware of, today there seems to exist more mental distress, more violence, and more greed. Also, as a result of extraordinary modern development in the field of communication, the world has become smaller and the human beings have become more interdependent than ever before. But have you become correspondingly more compassionate and more caring to each other? But unfortunately, again, there seems to exist more competition, jealousy, and greed, which leads to more hatred and selfishness. This then is, by and large, the state of the world today. His Holiness firmly believes that the basic nature of human being is kind and compassionate. But the state we are here today is because of the unbalanced education system which places more emphasis on the development of intellectual capacities and neglecting development of compassion and warm heart. We stress more on the individual than on the community. The solution to this problem, His Holiness is convinced, is to impart a balanced education, educating both the mind and the heart, to make human beings more compassionate and less self-centered. In fact, this is His Holiness's passion, this is his commitment, and this is his vision for a better world, a more peaceful world, a more harmonious world. His Holiness often says, I have just two hands and needed more to effect changes in this world. Friends, we are gathered here today, coming from different parts of the world, to give His Holiness this much needed helping hand. Thank you very much.
May I invite Mr. Veer Singh, founder, Vana Foundation.
Friends, respected gurus, scholars, teachers, Kailash Satyarthi ji, Manish Sisodia ji, and respected, beloved, and our most precious ocean of wisdom, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Namaste. I am an insignificant piece in this puzzle, a mere child grappling with samsara. I feel fortunate to have been able to assist with this event and some of the efforts that led up to it in a small way. This most iconic and remarkable body of work, Sea Learning, deserves nothing less than the greatest admiration. But more importantly, it deserves to be used, applied, and positively exploited for everyone's benefit as much as possible. When I first read the Sea Learning framework and curriculum, I was awestruck by its quality, sensitivity, academic rigor, practicality, and global application. It is a testament to the tremendous hard work that Geshe Lobsang Negi, his wonderful team at Emory University, and many eminent advisors have put in. It would not be unfair to say it is amongst the very, very best frameworks of its kind. Whether you are an educator or not, I would encourage all of you to read it. And of course, it is yet another beautiful manifestation of His Holiness's profound wisdom, love, boundless compassion, care, and concern for us all. It is wonderful to have this event in India, one of the fountains of spiritual wisdom for the world, and the land of the Buddha Shakyamuni. We are here with one of his greatest teachers and practitioners, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a son of India, as His Holiness often calls himself, a teacher I revere and love. As an Indian, I cannot help but feel an immense sense of gratitude to His Holiness, who constantly reminds us of our profound heritage of wisdom, and who tirelessly encourages all of us, citizens of this one planet, to abandon unvirtuous action, to cultivate everything that is virtuous, and to train the mind, just as the Buddha did 2,600 years ago. As an Indian Buddhist, I feel strongly that this ancient wisdom is as contemporary today as it was over 2 millennia ago. As life becomes ever more complicated, the earth ever more depleted, and the mind ever more overwhelmed, there is no better time for us to embrace sea learning. There is no better time to begin a thoughtful journey to help cultivate the right values in our young and to prepare their minds for life ahead. Vana Foundation is a young organization that works to inspire the study and practice of the Buddha's path to enlightenment and the revival of Indian culture and wisdom in whichever small way that we can. We are very limited in our capacity, and so I request all of you to push this initiative forward in India and all over the world. Welcome to all of you, and I wish you a wonderful 2 days together. Thank you and namaste.
May I now invite Dr. Robert Paul, Dean Emeritus, Emory University.
It is a great honor and a very great pleasure to bring greetings to this assembly on the occasion of the launch of the Sea Learning Program from its co-sponsor and academic institutional home, Emory University, in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, in the USA. On behalf of Emory's president, Claire Stirk, I convey to you Emory's high hopes for the success of this project, which could not be more timely or more in keeping with Emory's mission. It is that mission to educate both the mind and the heart, so tirelessly and eloquently espoused by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that has brought Emory together with His Holiness, who serves as Distinguished Presidential Professor at Emory. We're proud to partner with him, as well as with the Dalai Lama Trust and the Vana Foundation, to establish what is the most ambitious and far-reaching project yet of Emory's 2 decades-old collaboration with His Holiness, whose wisdom has successfully guided us in the past and whose commitment, whose service of all humanity has inspired and continues to inspire us. No one can doubt that the world is entering a tumultuous era with tremendous challenges, but also with ever-increasing knowledge about how to deal with the problems that face us. And there is one great resource that stands above all others that will lead us to a better world or allow us to be overwhelmed by the forces of divisiveness, destruction, and despair. That resource is our children and our children's children. What the world will become in the coming years will be determined by the choices these next generations will make and the actions they take in relation to others with whom they will share this small and very vulnerable planet. Forming these children into the kinds of adults who will not only have the skills to work on solving the great technical and scientific challenges of the coming era, but will do so in a spirit of generosity, forgiveness, understanding, and compassion for others. This now stands as the most important task facing today's adult generation. We now know that these qualities can be taught and inculcated just as can the skills of engineering, mathematics, and science. And therefore, we recognize that no more worthwhile task confronts us than developing educational systems that address both the heart and the mind, teaching our children both knowledge and the emotional, social, and ethical understanding of self and others that together unite to create genuine maturity and wisdom. Emory's motto, "The wise heart seeks knowledge," perfectly captures the project of the Sea Learning Program, and our meeting of minds and hearts with those of His Holiness and all those gathered here gives us hope and excitement about the launching of this all-important effort. In closing, I want to thank and congratulate my former student and now colleague, Lobsang Tenzing Negi, who has led us in this crucial and promising endeavor. There are many others, too numerous to mention, who deserve much credit, but there is no doubt that without Geshe Lobsang's energetic and effective leadership, this event and this program would not be happening. Thank you very much.
Center for Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics, It's a bit of a difficult name to remember. But as I deliberated about each of these words in the name and took in the import mindfully, it was not just not difficult, but so apt that this center at Emory University holds the central responsibility for developing this C-learning curriculum. I invite the Director of Center for Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics, Dr. Lobsang Negi, to come and share with us about the C-learning program. Are you going to do it from there? That's fine if you want to do it from there. People may want to see your face more clearly. It's up to you.
Good morning. With my humble request to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, humble respects to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji, and Shri Manish Sisodia, the Deputy Chief Minister, Delhi Government. It is my privilege to give a brief introduction to the C-Learning program here, which stands for Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning. But first allow me to express my deep and heartfelt thanks to Mr. Tempa Sering of the Dalai Lama Trust, Mr. Veer Singh of Vana Foundation, and Dr. Robert Paul, my own advisor at Emory University, for their wonderful opening remarks and for representing our 3 host organizations for this launch. Please allow me also to acknowledge what a great honor it is to have the presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama here to globally launch this program by unveiling the C-Learning curriculum. His Holiness has not only been the inspiration, the vision, but also the support behind this program. In fact, C-Learning is a program that inspires to fulfill His Holiness's far-reaching vision, the vision for educating the heart and mind, or what His Holiness often refers to as the secular ethics in education. We would not be here today without His Holiness's kindness and His Holiness's guidance. We are also so privileged to have with us here our other distinguished guests, Honorable Shri Manish Sisodia, Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi Government, and renowned children's rights activist, Nobel laureate Shri Kailash Satyarthi. We are here to celebrate the global launch of C-Learning program. Although this is a new program, its roots go back quite far. It represents and reflects many decades of work, discussions, meetings, and dialogues by His Holiness the Dalai Lama with world leaders in education and various scientific disciplines, including neuroscience, psychology, and others, on topics of how to bring about a change in education that can bring the most benefit to future generations and prepare them to meet the challenges that lie before them. For quite some time, His Holiness has been convinced that our education, to be truly useful, it must be combined with a good heart. Furthermore, he contends that such an education of heart should be based on secular ethics, and ethics based on our common humanity and on science rather than on a single religion or ideology. This is by no means because His Holiness is himself against religion in any way. Rather, it is because of the diversity and pluralism of our world today and our urgent need to learn to live together peacefully in harmony. This is the vision upon which Sea Learning is founded. Sea Learning is also the culmination of 20-year-long relationship between His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Emory University. In 1998, His Holiness inaugurated the Emory-Tibet Partnership, which when he was visiting university as its commencement speaker. In his commencement address, he said, and I quote, "I believe that education is like an instrument. Whether that instrument is used properly or constructively or in a different way depends on the user. We have education on the one hand. On the other hand, we have a good person. A good person means someone with a good heart, a sense of caring for welfare of others, a sense of commitment, a sense of responsibility. Education and warm heart, the compassionate heart. If you combine these two, then your education, your knowledge will be constructive. Then you yourself will be a happy person, and certainly you can make immense benefit for society and the betterment of humanity. That is one of my fundamental beliefs, that a good heart, a warm heart, a compassionate heart is still teachable. Please combine these two." And these were the words of His Holiness back in 1998 at the Emory campus. In statements like these, His Holiness made clear the need of an education of both heart and mind. Since his inauguration of the Emory-Tibet Partnership in that year of 1998, Emory University has collaborated with Tibetan institutions of higher education to bring modern science to Tibetan monastic education in the form of Emory Tibet Science Initiative, and has engaged in a robust research on compassion and its cultivation with its cognitive-based compassion training. The purpose of all of these efforts has been to bring modern science and Western intellectual tradition into dialogue with the Indo-Tibetan tradition, which His Holiness often fondly refers to as ancient Indian Nalanda tradition of critical inquiry, a tradition that has spent millennia examining the inner science and nature of the mind and emotions. The hope is that this exchange of knowledge can lead us to a better understanding of the human condition and concrete solution to our present-day problems. The culmination of this collaboration between His Holiness and Emory University is Sea Learning, a K-12 education intended for global implementation. We embarked on this project when His Holiness entrusted us in 2015 to develop a framework and sample curriculum for bringing secular ethics into education. In developing Sea Learning over the next 4 years, our team drew directly from the writings of His Holiness, including his books, Ethics for New Millennium and Beyond Religion. We also drew from leading scientists and scholars in the field of education, including the works of Daniel Goleman in the field of evolutionary biology, neuroscience, psychology, the social sciences, trauma-informed care, systems thinking, and so on. Throughout our small team at Emory was guided and aided by a multitude of teachers and senior advisors and experts. And we are so grateful that many of them are here with us today. But I would be remiss if I don't mention the tremendous contribution that one of our advisors, Geshe Tupten Jimpala, whose insight and his contribution has been enormous. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here because of another the writing project. Over the past 4 years, over 600 educators have attended sea learning workshops and been given curriculum to pilot in their classrooms. And of them, over 150 educators have directly contributed to the curriculum or have provided crucial feedback on their use of the curriculum during its development. In addition to the framework and the curriculum, our team, which now includes many international partners, has worked tirelessly to produce the 4 volumes we will present today. To develop an online platform for educators, educator preparation and support so that this program can become truly global, and to initiate a robust research and assessment program to evaluate the effect of educating the heart and mind on children and educators alike. Working on such a visionary and far-reaching initiative with so much potential to bring genuine benefit to the world has been a tremendous privilege and honor to our entire Sea Learning team, and for that matter, it is a proud moment for the entire Emory community as well. In addition to thanking His Holiness, I would much like to thank the successive presidents of Emory University who have supported these efforts over the past 20 years, including the current president, President Claire Sturr, as well as our Dean of the Emory Deans of Emory College over the years, most notably Dr. Robert Paul, who just spoke before me, but also the current Dean, Dean Michael Elliott. We would not have reached this point. It is now my great honor to request His Holiness the Dalai Lama to formally unveil the 4 volumes of early elementary, late elementary, and the middle school curricula, and the Sea Learning Companion. It is our honor to also present these volumes to Nobel Peace Laureate Shri Kailash Satyarthi and to the Honorable Shri Manish Sisodia, the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi Government.
The early elementary curriculum and the Sea Learning Companion is being simultaneously launched in 12 major languages. Not only the 6 UN languages of English, Arabic, Chinese, French, Russian, and Spanish, but also Tibetan, Hindi, Korean, Mongolian, German, and Portuguese. We are grateful to the many teams of translators, some of whom are present here, for doing this work. We would now like to show a brief video on sea learning, which gives a small glimpse on some of the many students, classrooms, and educators who have helped develop and piloted the program. This video will be followed by opening remarks by Honorary Deputy Chief Minister, special remarks by Shri Kailash Satyarthi, and then the keynote address by His Holiness.
Can you tell me what the future is going to be like?
What do you mean by the future?
I don't know. I feel like the future definitely it'll have
Robots. People will be less mean to each other. I think everyone's going to become friends.
I feel like it's a boomerang. So you give out the kindness boomerang and then the kindness comes back to you.
The Dalai Lama had this vision of being able to offer a curriculum for free to anybody in the world that gets people to think about what it means to be a good person.
Our education system's set up to teach kids a lot of facts about the world, but not really how to make meaning out of those facts.
The collaboration between His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Emory University led us to undertaking this new program called Sea Learning, Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning.
Sea Learning is many different initiatives in education together for the first time. Social and emotional learning, compassion and ethics, attention training, trauma and resiliency skills.
You put all of it together, and then you put in some really hands-on activities that get kids excited.
Sometimes I have some problems with my friends. I use sea learning to help me calm down.
Every teacher feels frazzled. Every teacher feels like they're doing too much.
Weaving sea learning in makes everything else I'm doing work better.
I think it's really exciting to hear that there's going to be an online platform.
Having an online platform for sea learning is a key. Teachers from around the world can get that training. It allows us to have that conversation and to learn from each other.
I hope that in the future, my generation can change things, hopefully.
I think maybe the world can be a kinder place.
I was kind before, but now I'm kinder.
Sea learning is about, first and foremost, bringing that inner change, being kind towards each other.
And that's it.
We have the honor of having in our midst the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi and also the Education Minister, Mr. Manish Sisodia. The Delhi government, under the leadership of Mr. Manish Sisodia, has taken many unprecedented and path-breaking educational initiatives that have brought in a lot of changes here. It's been a talk of many parts of what is being tried out in Delhi. But not only that, what really warms my heart personally is how the boundaries between, the sectoral boundaries between government and NGOs and individuals have gotten blurred. We're all human. And it's opened up so much space for people from any walk of life who want to contribute to public education. They can come in and contribute. So Mr. Manish Sisodia, please.
Respected Mr. Negi, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi on the dais, His Holiness, all the holy souls present in this hall, let me start by saying good morning to all of you. Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasant day to be part of this historic ceremony of humankind. Because as an education minister, I can say, and as a human being, as a citizen, I can say, that this SE learning course material is one of the greatest gifts to humanity. That's the only thing. Emotional and ethical learning is the only thing that we, all human beings on the earth, are really looking for, and really we want this today. Especially at a time when the entire world is trying to solve the problems of hatred, problems of violence, through rules and laws being made by the governments every day, and the weapons being purchased every day. What we are trying to do, we are trying to buy peace through weapons. We are trying to buy peace, bring peace through law. And we have seen in the world that it has not been possible so far. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of papers which we call rules and law. And there are millions and millions of weapons on the earth. Then we can say that there is no peace on the earth. There is a risk to life. There is always a risk to humanity. There is always a risk to the nature. At this time, we introduced this curriculum called SE learning, social, emotional, ethical. That's why I said it's one of the most needed, much needed curriculum, much needed education for all the people living on the earth. I would say this is the solution to hatred. This is the solution to violence. This is the solution to all the divisions that we are living with together. This is the solution to make human being one. This is the only solution, I would say, to bring oneness amongst all the human beings living on the earth. And that's much needed. That's why I congratulate the team behind this curriculum, the Emory University, Dalai Lama Trust, Vana Foundation, and everybody who has been working. I have seen this curriculum before. I was under discussion, and I've got an opportunity to see the curriculum in advance, and I found this is the scientific way to teach ethical and emotional science. We can say, and we know from our histories, that there has been hardly any time on the earth when we have not been looking for ethical education or emotional education. We have been trying to do so earlier also. But unfortunately, all our efforts to teach emotions and values and ethics have been limited to preaching. You can't preach ethics. You can help the students, the next generations, to learn and live with ethics. This is the scientific way. It's as scientific as 2 plus 2. As I say 2 plus 2, I mean to say that everybody who knows 2 plus 2 is 4. Whenever a situation comes and someone says 2 plus 2 is 5, one can agree. All the people who knows 2 plus 2 is 4, nobody can convince them that 2 plus 2 can be 3 or 5 also. So it's as scientific as 2 plus 2. That's why I said this curriculum, I have gone through this. And that's why I said I'm grateful as a human being, I'm grateful to the team who has prepared this curriculum. With the blessings of His Holiness and the team who has worked on it, Delhi government schools have already been blessed by a curriculum called Happiness Curriculum. It has been, and I won't hesitate to say that many of the things that we have been teaching in our schools in last 1 year in the name of Happiness Curriculum, we have borrowed them from the teachings from His Holiness. Most of the things. And the results are tremendous. On 2nd July 2018, His Holiness blessed us, all the government teachers, all the government principals and students, by His presence and by His words. And under His leadership, we introduced this curriculum called Happiness Curriculum in our schools, 1,000 schools, 15 lakh students, 1.5 million, I can say, students. Every day practice mindfulness meditation at the beginning of the school. And there are stories, there are activities under this curriculum daily. It's the daily class happening. This is one of the most I can say, largest experiment being done on emotional and ethical learning on happiness curriculum. As I said, 15 lakh students every day take part in these classes in all our 20,000 classrooms in 1,000 schools. 20,000 teachers every morning takes happiness classes in our schools. Mindful meditation, activities, stories, and results are, as I said, tremendous. I'll just put one or two small anecdotes before this house so that one can understand where this C-learning can lead to the world. And it's better that we adopt this. All the schools in all the countries should adopt this as soon as possible. I'll just give you two anecdotes from my classrooms. One small girl, the outcome comes from the parents and teachers. Many of the principals have told me in my schools that students in our schools are now behaving in a more calm manner. They are not being as rowdy as they used to be at that point of time before introduction of this curriculum. Behavior changes are there. But one mother told one of my teachers, she came to school and asked us, "What are you teaching these days to my students?" She said, "What? Why? Is there something wrong?" No, she said, "Nowadays, my child has, when he comes to house, he has been, earlier it used to be his rowdy behavior when he used to come back to home after school, and I used to request him to have food, and he always used to say, no, abhi nahi. But now, when he comes from the school, and I offer him food, he not only have food easily and calmly, but also asks me with love, Mother, do you have enough for yourself also in kitchen? And not only this, he actually sometimes go back to kitchen and actually looks, because these are have-not families, the very poor families. The child go back to kitchen and looks at the utensils that if there is enough left for my mother also. One of the girls told me that, "Sir, after this happiness curriculum, now we are actually more concerned about the financial position of our families. Earlier we used to think that our parents are not spending as much as required. They are not offering us as much gift as we demand. But now, after attending this class, we actually are critical to our financial positions and to the parents' financial position." So there are so many. One of the teachers told me that the greed of collecting more and more saris has gone away because of this happiness curriculum. Yeah. So these are very anecdotal, but very beginning. This has been 1 year only. The scale is high, so we can understand that the penetration would be much and much deeper with the process of time. But again, I would like to say that we'll learn more from this SE curriculum. We would like to adopt this as soon as possible, as fast as possible, maybe in the name of happiness or maybe in the name of C curriculum. But yes, future of the human being, future of the earth, future of all the nations is in SE learning. So thank you very much for making this possible for all human beings. And thank you, His Holiness Dalai Lama, for blessing us.
A name that needs no introduction, Nobel laureate who's been doing India proud. But I'm sure that's not how Kailash Satyarthi ji thinks of himself. Moved by the plight of countless children who are forced to work not only to survive themselves, but also for adults, loved ones or not. He's worked tirelessly to build the global march against child labor and also the global campaign for education. May I invite Mr. Kailash Satyarthi to share with us how he sees C-learning to be relevant in his heart-rending context. Your special remarks, sir.
My dear children, Your Holiness, brother and friend Manish ji, Ram Pavan ji, dear sisters and brothers. These organizers were very clever. They put two machines, one on His Holiness and one on me, so that two of us cannot make noise. Actually, I recall when my Nobel Peace Prize was announced, Some journalists and friends told that, oh, Kailashji, it's such a great news that you are going to join the company of those 20, 25, the tallest moral leaders of the world. I said, yes. But then I immediately said that I'm sure that I'm going to join 2 more children. Little elderly, more wise. And they were asked, you work with the children and live with the children for all your life, and you think and behave like a child. Who are these 2 more children? I said, one is Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and the second one is the Holiness the Dalai Lama. So if any 2 of us meet, the laughter and noise is bound to happen. Let me tell you that when I enter in this hall, I feel like I'm swimming in the ocean of compassion. Your smiles amidst compassion and love and kindness. I don't know your positions, your academic qualifications, but one thing I can tell you, that you have brought tremendous positive energy. And I can also see many people from many other parts of the world. I welcome you in India. Why I said that he is a great mentor, motivator, and a friend like a child. Because for me, childhood is not an age. Childhood means transparency, truth, forgiveness, more quest for learning. The world is much more beautiful, much more lovable. So today, Vana Foundation, the Dalai Lama Trust, and all those people, academicians who worked in this C-learning syllabus, I hope, I cannot say now, frankly, but I hope that it will help in changing my thought or my belief about education. When the children are born, as I said, they are true. They reflect divinity. But over the years, they are conditioned through our teaching, through our identities. We tell you are Buddhist, you are this, and you are that. Their identities begins with those divisive trainings. No. We teach them to be Hindustani, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshis, African, American. No child. It is adults who created the borders on this Mother Earth, and we teach them nationalities and boundaries. So if such an effort can help in bringing back and de-learn these kind of things, and try to inculcate and I'm sure that those who worked on it might have not just to teach the children compassion, but learn compassion from children. In all my life, in 40 years, 50 years of my work with the children, I try to learn. Only last week, actually this week on Monday, I was sitting with a group of children whom we freed a week before from slavery. They were all trafficked from Bihar to work in Delhi, in the capital of this country, as slave laborers, trafficked ones. 9, 10, 12, 13-year-old. They worked in toy making, in fact, the car making. They were making plastic cars. The youngest one told me, when I asked that, did you ever play with these cars? He started crying. He said, no. I was not allowed to play with those toys. But yes, I used to play when I was a child, because his sense of childhood has been lost. He says that I used to play with the pieces of stones in my village, and now we are beaten up if we try to play with those. When he started crying, before any teacher jumped into him, a son started kissing. Here you learn compassion. You can learn compassion from children. You can ignite compassion through that. I'm not going to speak much about it, but let me underline a few things. One is that all religions on the earth and all revolutions, political, social revolutions, were born out of one spark, and that is compassion. And compassion is not simply an empathy, it is not sympathy, it is not just kindness, it is not the feeling for the suffering, and then a drive and desire to change that situation of suffering. A lot of work, a lot of research has been done on it. And I'm happy that more research is being done. But let us go back to our children. Let us learn from our children. Today, when I'm standing here, in India, in my country, one child would be raped or sexually abused in 15 minutes. Today, I am standing here, 152 million children must be working as child laborers in extremely subhuman conditions in one other part of the world. I work across 150 countries for last many, many decades. When I sat with a child who was badly injured working in a cocoa bean farm field in Ivory Coast. And when I asked that ingredient of chocolate, he looked here and there and asked other children, what is chocolate? And then all of them said, they have never tasted chocolate. I sat with a girl, 7, 8-year-old girl, tiny girl who was stitching footballs, and each time when she made a mistake, she used to suck her blood. And I asked that, my daughter, I assure you that I will free you. one day, "What is your dream?" She said, "What is dream?" I said, "Khwab." "What is khwab?" I said, "What you want to become one day?" She said, "Just one thing. I wanted to hit the proper football. I wanted to play with the football." This is the world we have created due to deficit in compassion. In our personal life, in our social life, in our political life, in our business life. So, dear friends, I can tell you that we all, each one of us, are born with the most precious divine gift. That is compassion. We ignore it. It is layered with our knowledge, our maturity, which makes us more artificial. It is layered with bias, fear, insecurities, and so on. If this most precious gift of God, compassion, is with us, let us not confine it to our children, our siblings, our biological ones, or our close friends. The God is not so meager, if there is a God. Then this God has given ocean of compassion, and we all can fit into it. We all. We have to open it, then we all can swim, as I'm swimming today with all of you, the ocean of compassion. So, dear friends, I hope that compassion become the way of life. A life, you need not to learn it, it should be the part of you. Let us see that how we can inculcate making business, which is killing humanity, which is killing planet and everything. Business with compassion. Let us think of politics with compassion. We have seen that how the politics has been degraded. Look at their faces. Listen to their speeches. Anywhere in the world, the whole soul of globalization is squeezing. We are becoming more and more localized. Look at those politicians. Let us do politics with compassion. Let us promote politics with compassion as a human being, as a citizen, as a civilians and responsible people. This earth, this planet belongs to you. So ask your politicians to be compassionate. And if they are not, I know. And you know better than me. And the religious leaders, faith leaders should also learn compassion. The soul is gone. The big churches, the big temples, the big mosques are built. And sadhus, babas appear on the television, not 24 hours in 24 hours of the day, but maybe 30, 40 hours a day. So let us love ourselves, but let us love all, and that is possible when we learn from our children. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kailashi, as you were speaking about trust these identities over them, and probably that's how we create these barriers to compassion, which is already existing in the children. 18th century mystic poet Kabir I'm sure many of us have heard this. He says, "Sab aaye ek hi ghat se, utre ek hi baat, बीच में दुविधा पड़ गई, हो गए 12 बाट." What he's saying is that we all came from one place. We walked the same road. Duality threw us into doubt. And now the road has been split into dozens. His Holiness, whose heart beats in compassion for the 7 billion plus humanity that's often caught up in these narrow identities of its own making, whose vision that is at once universal and also beyond these narrow affiliations, with his relentless pushing, he's been the one key instigator of this whole enterprise of the development of the CE learning curriculum. His Holiness.
All those 사점도 respected brothers and sisters, indeed, I am one of the 7 billion human beings. So this kind of gathering, thinking or discuss well-being of humanity, I very much appreciate. Then, if you look last, I think, 1 billion years since sun developed 5 billions. And then living being start 1 billion years. Among the what's it, the different species of mammals, I think the human being most mischievous. I think other sort of sentient being, mammals, of course, they also have anger, attachment, sense of I, yeah. But say, due to their anger, there is some limited destructive action. We human beings, most of today, in a way, most destructive. This intelligence. So, our intelligence we can do immense good things. Same time, this intelligence, you see, use destructive way, as I mentioned earlier. then really very, very humble. So now, basic human nature is very good, compassionate nature. One example, my hero, Richard Moore. When he, the Kasa, such the Kasa. Northern Ireland. Belfast, there. When you see crisis, some problems. So one British soldier, you see the rubber bullet hit on his sort of forehead. Immediately, I burst, destroyed. But, you see, then in hospital, the next day, when he recovered, his first thought, not anger, not hatred. But now I no longer see my mother's face. Beautiful, beautiful. So he never kept sort of anger towards that person, British soldier who shot. So eventually they become very good friends. So that's one indication of basic human nature. And now scientists also say basic human nature is more compassionate. We are a social animal. Our survival entirely depends on others' care, others' affection. Firstly, mother, then friends, like that. So that's basic human nature. Now, as you mentioned, the education, once the children join the education, then not much talk about these basic human value. Just as today's modern education is very much oriented about material value. So then, children, you see, nature, good quality, becoming more dormant. And this brilliant brain combined with the destructive emotion. Since basic good nature, dormant, and then attraction about external things, and then education also talking about material values, like that. So therefore, now key thing is education. You see, further or utilize the ability of human intelligence. Human intelligence cannot turn positive through mere faith, but through reasoning. So education have very, very important role. Firstly, making distinction among the different emotions. Then destructive emotion through human intelligence, properly think, then we can develop conviction, destructive emotions such as anger, such as hatred. Although it is supposed to protect oneself, but actually very harmful. That human intelligence have the ability to make distinction. Intelligence have the ability to see long-term interest, short-term interest. And intelligence it can see more holistic. And also intelligence can see reality. Emotion cannot. When anger develops, short-sighted, immediate. And from now quantum physics, and according to quantum physics, and also some of the ancient Indian sort of philosophical view, the most of the destructive emotion is very much based on appearances. So therefore, intelligence analyze the reality, and we will understand the deeper level of reality. And firstly, we can develop the knowledge. There is gap, appearances and reality. Emotion just based on appearances. Now this is now scientists also say. So therefore, education is very, very important role to get understanding the reality and combine the sense of responsibility. That's compassion combined. So therefore, I really appreciate Emory University and concerned sort of people who really now pay attention for that. The result may not achieve next week, but I think next generation will come more sensible human being, more compassionate human being. Then not only individual become happier and family, but also entire world can be more peaceful, more genuine sense of cooperation, and ready to share others' problem and helping each other. At the time now, global warming quite serious. So we really need a sense of one community. Eastern world, Western world, Southern world, Northern world, we are same. So as you mentioned, we too much emphasis on differences, on because of nationality and races and religious faith. These are secondary. The important is we are same human being. We share this same planet. We have to take care of our environment. This is the only our home. If we, due to carelessness and due to global warming, if our world become desert, then there is no other alternative. Moon, night, blue sky, moon, beautiful. I think 1,000 years, people always say, poetry, always mention. But if you see, we try to settle there, hopeless. we will die. So no matter how difficult our world, this is our only home. So we have to take care of our environment. So in a way, in a sense, it's a sense of concern or compassion attitude, not only we human beings, but also other sort of animals, birds, some different insects. These, something like ornaments, ornament. Mosquito may be exception. My relation with mosquito, not very good. So we have to extend our sense of responsibility, sense of compassion. Firstly, our own family member, then our own community, then finally entire humanity, then also different species of mammals on this planet. So that's all. Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And now, may I invite on stage a distinguished panel of experts who have researched and studied the benefits of Sea Learning curriculum. We have Dr. Daniel Goldman, who's going to be here on a pre-recorded video. He's not been able to make it because the pollution that we just talked about, his doctor didn't allow him. Dr. Robert Roser, Dr. Brendan Osawa de Silva, and Mr. Aditya Natraj. We have Dr. Lobsang Negi in the chair. Dr. Negi, as soon as he came to Delhi, he was, unfortunately, he fell ill. And in fact, he's come only late last night from the hospital. So thank you so much, Dr. Negi, for still making it here.
Okay. Oh, yes, most welcome. Most welcome. Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Kailashi has to leave.
I would like to leave. Elections are going.
This is your.
working? No, not working. Is it working? Still not. Maybe it's not. It is on, but no.
Hello?
Is it working?
Hello? Testing?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Is it good? Better? For such an inspiring speech. And to fulfill. We move now into the second session, which is a panel session. Unfortunately, we have run out of at least half an hour, so we have much shorter presentation times, unfortunately. Originally, we had arranged for 10 minutes each, which if we can get it squeezed to 8 minutes, I think we had just right time for the 6. So we will now move to the first panel, titled Educating the Heart and Mind, Mapping our and who are our senior advisors for Sea Learning Program, Dr. Daniel Goldman and reasons. They very much wanted to be here, but they expressed their regret personally to you, Your Holiness. Dr. Goldman and Ms. Lentieri are two of the foremost leaders in the world of social and emotional education, and they are the two of the co-founders of the Collaborative of Social Emotional Learning. So the absence is, of course, felt very much. But even though they cannot be here physically, but thanks to the technology and so forth, they will be here electronically. They have recorded 2 brief messages. So, Your Holiness, we will start first with the message from Dr. Daniel Goldman and Linda Lentieri, and then I will introduce our panelists to present their presentations.
When I wrote Emotional Intelligence in 1994, I argued for educating students emotional and social skills. I was spurred by the finding that when it came to students' problems like violence, drug abuse, depression, and dropouts, the program self-awareness, self-management, empathy, and social skills, which altogether help kids make good decisions in their lives. A small group of us, including my friend and fellow speaker Linda Lentieri, founded the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning to spread this approach. Today, it's become a worldwide movement known as Social Emotional Learning, or SEL. Research shows that these programs work. A study of several 100,000 students found SEL lowers antisocial problems by 10%, increases pro-social attitudes, such as liking school, by 10%, and boosts academic achievement scores by 11%. When I wrote A Force for Good, the Dalai Lama's vision for our world, for his 80th birthday, I came to see how SEL aligns with His Holiness's mission of reaching the people of the 21st century with what he calls an education of the heart. The Emory Sea Learning Framework complements SEL with crucial skills that are largely missing from existing programs, skills that I identified in my book, The Triple Focus, written with MIT's Peter Senge. These include attention training, care and compassion, systems learning, and the development of an ethical outlook. In particular, compassion and discernment provide the foundations for sea learning. This combination of wisdom and compassion seems exactly what the world needs now. There's a saying, compassion without discernment is blind. Discernment without compassion is like a dried up fruit tree. Congratulations, Your Holiness, on this global launch of Sea Learning, the culmination of more than 20 years of academic collaboration between you and Emory University. My hope is that Sea Learning will be adopted far and wide and help more and more students far into the future. It represents SEL 2.0.
And now the next one with Miss Linda Lentieri. You would not be ready yet? 10 minutes? PowerPoint, okay, perfect. So, Your Holiness, our panelists include here today Dr. Kimberly Shonat Raquel. She is a developmental psychology and world-renowned developmental psychology whose work has focused on evaluating the benefits of social and the bios are in the program. Our second panelist, Dr. Robert Roser, is also a developmental psychologist and a leading researcher on mindfulness and compassion in children. And we have with us also my colleague, Dr. Brendan Osava de Silva, a member of Sea Learning team, in himself an emerging polymath, really a brilliant scholar, and he will be presenting this Emory Sea Learning. Here in this country. So unfortunately, there are only 45 minutes. So if we can limit to our presentations to 6 minutes each.
Okay. I'm going to talk really fast.
6 to 7. 6 to 7. Thank you.
So I need the slides. PowerPoint. I'll start first. Good morning, Your Holiness, and good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to be here this morning at this momentous event in the world, the launch of the Sea Learning curriculum, which is really a dream of mine, and I know a dream of yours. And your work has inspired my own work for so many years as a professor and first as a teacher, where I wanted to learn how to educate the heart of children. Am I just waiting? Oh, there, but I don't think I can see it here. Okay.
Okay,
I will have to, oh, there we go. So in the next 6 to 7 minutes, I'm going to share with you some of the recent science behind social and emotional learning and really prepare the groundwork for why we need to have the Sea Learning curriculum. Here's a quote that you might be familiar with. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. This quote was said by Aristotle centuries ago, and it still rings true today. But I'll tell you something that's different right now. We now have the science that supports it. So the research we have that shows how you feel affects how you learn. That when we're happier, we actually learn more. But why now do we need to think about bringing social and emotional learning? We know that there are extra challenges and risk factors that our children are facing. There's bullying, sleep deprivation. Children are not getting enough sleep these days. There's decreased empathy, as well as toxic stress. In particular, toxic stress, that children every day are experiencing stress, not just at normal levels, but at very high levels in the conditions they face in the world. And that's leading to mental health problems, indicating that about 1 in 5 children have a mental health problem. And many of them do not receive the help they need. We also know from the science that stress is contagious. So even if I'm not stressed, but I'm around a group of people who are highly stressed, I will catch it. I will feel highly stressed. And to look at this, we've done some research looking at teachers in the classroom and asking them about their stress and that was fascinating. Those of stress and burnout had students with the highest levels of stress. So this idea of really educating the heart of children will not only affect the children, but so what now? What's the solution? I think you can guess. Social and emotional learning, which is a growing movement around the globe. That in fact, when you start look at social and emotional learning and look at what different countries are using social and emotional learning programs, there are 34 countries. But I heard today that there are 37 countries, so that is growing. So there's probably some countries we've left out. Now, what matters in terms of the science behind social and emotional learning? What matters really? And I'm going to share with you in the next couple of minutes some of the recent research findings. Number one, we know we can teach these skills. They are malleable through neuroplasticity. When I was a student in graduate school, learning to be a professor, we used to think that you could not teach empathy. I was taught these are traits that cannot change. We now know you can teach them. We also know that social and emotional learning programs make a difference. They increase well-being, they increase both short-term and long-term positive effects. So, for example, CASEL, or the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, researchers there did a meta-analysis of hundreds of studies with 270,000 students. And they compared the students who had a social and emotional learning program to those students who did not. And what they found is that those students who had a social and emotional learning program not only became more socially and emotionally competent, had more positive attitudes, they decreased in their emotional distress or destructive emotions, but they also increased in their academic achievement by 11 percentile points. So now in education, if teachers say, if educators say, we don't have time to do social and emotional learning because we have to do the academics, we can now show them this, that actually when you do social and emotional learning, we actually increase the academics. We've also learned that we've underestimated children's capacity for compassion. You've heard from other scientists that we are now saying that compassion is basic human nature, that we are born with this. So I'm going to show just a very short video, very short, Geshe-la. But I first have to give you a bit of context. In Mexico, when children have a birthday party, they have something called a piñata, and they make a kind of a toy. So they have a toy that they make with paper mache, and they put candy inside of it. And what they do is they then give the children a stick to hit the paper mache to break it open so all the candy will fall out. Let's see what happens when a young child is given the stick. again illustrating that kindness is basic human nature. The last finding I'm going to share is that we now know that helping others not only promotes happiness, well-being, but also health. We did a study, oh, I just like this slide. I just want to make all of you happy, because happiness is also contagious. So we did a study looking at if volunteering among teenagers helps promote their cardiovascular health. And we randomly assigned students who went after school to help little children for 10 weeks and compared them to children who did not. And we looked at their cholesterol and their other dimensions of body mass index. And what we found, those students who volunteered decreased their risk for heart disease. Oh, good, I'm almost done. Okay, the last finding. We also know from the research we also know that when we're talking about social and emotional learning, we can't just think about having a program for students. We have to also think about the context, creating the compassionate classroom, and we also have to think about the social and emotional learning of the educators. When I was a beginning teacher, I worked with some very difficult students. And I found that when I was working with them and I cared so much for them, that I was stressed. I would have stomach aches or headaches because no one was watching out for me. And we know we have to create that context for the well-being of the teachers as well as for the students. And that has to happen in a kind context. So where do we go from here? Social and emotional learning in the past decade has really led us to new advances in the science. But there's some important things that are missing in these social and emotional learning programs. Things where we need to go from here is we need to cultivate attention training, or mental hygiene. We need to have trauma-informed approaches. We need also to think about secular ethics, as well as systems thinking and interdependence. And finally, we need to think about cultivating compassion. Until today, there was no curriculum, a social and emotional learning curriculum that had all of these components. And now we do with the launch of social and emotional learning, C-learning curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you so much for finishing it just right at this time. And the next, now we have Dr. Rob Rosser.
Good morning, Your Holiness. It's a great joy and an honor to be with you again and to be with Geshe La and the C-Learning team and all of the educators assembled here and around the world. This is quite an auspicious occasion. And so what I would like to do is just talk briefly about the science of compassion, which really forms the foundation of C-Learning. And I'll try to be quick. As you're well aware, Your Holiness, from your conversations with scientists, over the past 2 decades, a new science has emerged around compassion that challenges some of our long-held notions about human nature, as you mentioned this morning, revealing that the good in us is just as intrinsic to our species as, quote-unquote, the bad. We now know that cooperation, care, and compassion are at the heart of the human being, given our mammalian lineage, our mammal ancestors, and also, as you said, millions of years of honing our intelligence, our reason, and our imagination. I also just want to say thank you to yourself and to India for being a storehouse of ideas on the human being and the prospects for personal and social transformation. As you've said, the Sanskritic traditions of this great land are a jewel and a resource for the whole world. And I think many of us have come here because we're inspired by your leadership and the notion that we could create an education that is both for one's own liberation and for the good of the world. And I think Sea Learning represents an important milestone in that journey. So we just want to thank you for your leadership and love in that regard. One of the basic hypotheses that you've talked about, Your Holiness, is that compassion is not only good for those that we are compassionate towards, but is also a royal road to personal flourishing. And I just wanted to share a recent study that analyzed 27 other studies. It was about 1,000 people. And this analysis revealed that, in fact, when we help other people, the data shows that the help giver is also benefited in terms of their personal well-being as much as the one who is receiving help. As you yourself have said, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion, and if you is catching up to provide some corroboration of that beautiful idea. As Kimberly said, one of the things that's been missing from the first generation of social emotional learning programs, despite the fact that this is a royal road to flourishing, is this important skill of compassion, which we now think about in terms of receiving compassion for others, caring for oneself, as well as extending care to others. Well, what is compassion? This is sort of like bringing coals to Newcastle. As you know, compassion is a complex mental state endowed with a sense of concern that focuses on others with a wish to prevent or relieve suffering. And the science has really begun to identify the constituent skills of compassion that represent the aims of our educational endeavors, like in Sea Learning. And so we now know we must recognize suffering. That is, we must be mindful. We have to understand this idea of shared humanity, that suffering is universal. We have to, in some ways, feel or understand the other's suffering and be able to tolerate that. And then there's this idea of being motivated to relieve this suffering and hopefully having some skills and knowledge regarding what to do. And as Kim said, we know that each of these component skills of mindfulness, empathy, emotion regulation, and kind motivation can be cultivated, although that was not always thought to be the case in science. I'm going to skip that for the sake of time. The other thing I just wanted to say, as you know, and we've talked a bit about this together, is that we see these seeds of compassion very near or at birth in children. We used to think, as Kim said, that empathy was a trait and may only be developed by age 5. But now we know that even within the first few months of life, children express concern for other babies. They tend to cry at the cry of another baby, but not their own voice. So they seem to know that another being is suffering. We know that babies in the first 6 months of life prefer helpers over those who hinder others. We see spontaneous soothing and help giving on the part of infants between the first and second year emerging. And we now have a lot of research that shows there's a great joy that children experience when sharing. So this idea that compassion is in our nature has really become part of the new science of human development. So the idea here is that when we have a beautiful curriculum like Sea Learning, we're not starting from a blank slate, but rather, as you've talked about in your books, we're trying to extend compassion. We're trying to grow these seeds of compassion beyond their expression towards the family, to strangers, outgroups, maybe even the lovely Earth herself. And so, in sum, I think the science of human development and ancient wisdom is coming together, as you know, through all of your engagement with scientists, and that this effort to bring more compassion into the world is a collective worldwide effort. I think polar bears, people, the planet herself are all counting on us. And as you yourself has said, if we have a noble goal, even if it's not reached in our lifetime, it's worthy to keep striving for it. So I'm so happy to be here to celebrate this great effort to do that in terms of sea learning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roser. It was wonderful to see this science behind compassion and other.
I want to share with you we have to make distinction, attachment and loving kindness. Attachment is very much because of the oriented way, oriented others' attitude. So, compassion, some kind of mixed with attachment, is towards only your friend. That kind of compassion cannot reach towards your enemy, troublemaker. So the genuine compassion is not oriented their attitude, but being themselves. I see. So, I think also testing our compassion is genuine compassion or not, is imagine troublemaker. And then what do you feel? That troublemaker also is one happiness. Yet he is passing through some difficulties. So then develop sense of concern. Oh, ho, ho. So the which mixed with attachment that take as a seed, then use intelligence. Then finally to a sense of concern. That's genuine compassion. That kind of compassion can develop only through training. But biological factor is a seed. Then intelligence use, the further strengthening, then universal compassion, like that. So that I want to share. Otherwise is your compassion very much mixed with attachment. Then sometimes may use this.
Thank you, Your Holiness, for making such an important distinction. And it would certainly be very important for the researchers to research on that. Our next presenter is Dr. Brendan Ozawa de Silva. So he will be presenting, Your Holiness, the actual framework of sea learning and developed at Emory University. Please go ahead.
So, Your Holiness, thank you. Hello? Hello? I use this one. So thank you, Your Holiness. It's a great honor to be here. And thank you so much for your support. And allow me to thank you on behalf of our Sea Learning team and also the many, many educators and curriculum writers who are here with us, and some are watching remotely, who worked on these materials. Effort, and I'm here representing all of them. So thank you. I would like to, in the interest of time, maybe just focus on a few things. Some of the ways in which we've tried to bring Your Holiness your ideas into this program directly. So you spoke just now, for example, on the difference between compassion and detachment. And we have several lessons. Compassion is not just the outward behavior, but also the inner motivation. So looking at sometimes kind behavior is not kind or compassionate if the motivation is to take advantage of the other person. Another thing, Your Holiness, that you've talked about is the idea of the map of the mind. So I'd like to also talk about how we tried to bring in the map of the mind. But first, Your Holiness, I'd just like to let people know that in creating this program, we tried to, in terms of the content, we tried to look at your own writings in Beyond Religion, in Ethics for the New Millennium, and the many speeches and talks that you've given, and the many dialogues you've had, for example, the Mind and Life dialogues you've had over 20 years. In terms of the structure of the framework, we modeled it after Dr. Daniel Goleman and Dr. Peter Senge's work as expressed in the Triple Focus, where they write that we need an education that has inner focus, other focus, and outer focus. So we call this the three domains of our framework: the personal domain, then how we relate to others, the social domain, and the systems domain. And in developing this framework, we are very much helped by Dr. Robert Rosser and because of bringing in all these different components, we're so fortunate to have Dr. Goleman call this SEL 2.0. And it was actually he who also gave us the name for our program, Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning. So this is what the diagram of the Sea Learning framework looks like. It has the personal, social, and systems domains, and has the dimensions of awareness, compassion, and engagement. Because we must become aware of what is happening. We must have that observation, that discernment, that scientific attitude. But we also have to care. We have to bring in the element of compassion for ourselves, for others, and for the wider systems that we live in. But even if we have awareness of a problem and we care about the problem, if we don't know what to do, if we don't have it will not be effective. So we have the third dimension of engagement. So the day that I flew out to India, my wife asked me to, Chikako, who has met you, and hopefully she's watching now from the United States, she asked me, Brendan, draw on a piece of paper a theory of happiness. And I really like that phrase, because it made me think that what we're trying to do in Sea Learning, and what you've been calling on us to do, is to help children develop their own theory of happiness. Not just telling them what we think leads to happiness. Of course, we should give them information based on our knowledge, our traditions, including science now. But also, they have to become their own scientists. They have to tell what it's not just an individual matter, but as Your Holiness has said, it's a collective matter, and we must think about that collectively. So in this way, we've tried to develop a program that is constructivist in nature, that is based on the spirit of the Nalanda tradition, based on debate, dialectics, and critical thinking, not just telling children what is right and wrong, but allowing them to discover for themselves. So our approach to the map of the mind that Your Holiness has called for is to both give third-person models that come from science or come from traditions, but also the first-person ability to look at one's own experience, one's own mind, through attention, cognition, skills that have long been recognized in the Indian traditions and the Tibetan traditions. And it's this combination of first person and third person that we think could really lead to the development of one's own ethical development for these students. And I know this is an idea, Your Holiness, you have talked about many times, and also Francesco Varela, who founded Mind and Life with you, has talked about combining these first and third person perspectives. We believe that children can learn to do that from a very early age. The last thing I'll say is that our different speakers have talked about the different elements that have been brought into this program. And they have mentioned all these, I don't need to repeat them. But one that I want to point out is systems thinking, because this is a very interesting thing. Your Holiness, you have often talked at educational meetings like this. You've mentioned quantum physics, quantum mechanics. It's very hard to teach kindergarten children quantum mechanics and quantum physics, but we can teach them systems thinking. And systems thinking actually is about noticing the difference between superficial appearance and the deeper nature of reality, because it's about seeing interdependence and recognizing that everything that happens, everything that exists, doesn't come from no cause, doesn't come from itself, but comes because of causes and conditions, and exists in very complex networks of relationships and causality. And children can begin to explore these systems and these relationships, and through that, move. And if we combine that with the compassion and other elements of discernment, we hope that this can lead to very positive results. So then I'll just mention that in the next days, this evening and tomorrow, we'll be going over the different parts of the C-Learning program. We have the framework, which is in the C-Learning Companion. We have the curricula, which were presented to you today. But we also have an educator preparation platform that we have created that we'll present to Your Holiness tomorrow, so that we can reach educators all around the world without limit. The online education. And lastly, we're very committed to cultivating international partnerships, because this is an experiment. This is a first step. Although we've done a lot of work, we're just beginning. And we need the help of all our partners all around the world in order for this to be successful. Lastly, we have a very strong research component, because we know that we have to empirically see the benefits of this, how to create a better program, and what this is doing, and that's the way to go forward. So just like to thank you again, Your Holiness, so much for your support.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you, Brendan, for the wonderful presentation on C-Learning program itself. Now, it is my privilege to request Mr. Aditya Nathraj to present on your lifelong work on education.
Thank you very much. So I was wondering, when they were introducing everyone on this panel as Dr. Kim, Dr. Robert, what they had me here for. I've been thrown out of 3 different schools. I'm not a doctor by any stretch of imagination. So the only thing I can imagine is comic relief. So that's possible. Different angle. I represent an organization called Kaivalya Education Foundation. And the first question we asked was, what is worth learning? Because in education, if you don't ask that fundamental question, and you continue to intervene, we are a non-profit agency, But the first question is, what is worth learning? And the word Kaivalya comes from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, and it's the ultimate state of as an organization. And when we work with children, the first thing we realize is the problem is not with children, the problem is with adults in the system. Children already have this. The problem is we adults seem to have power to prevent children from across the government education system in the country, the public education system in the country, saying, how do we help leaders and educators develop compassion? Because whatever curriculum you execute, if the adult in the room who has power doesn't have compassion, then children absorb that vibration. They absorb that energy. And it's very difficult. If the adult is not compassionate, happy, caring, and generous, it's unlikely the child is going to be. And even within the adults in the school environment, the principal of the school, the senior most person in the school, what vibration does she send? That is extremely critical to what children actually absorb. So we have no research for this. We have no evidence for this. This was just our fundamental belief. So we're very happy to be in this group of people who now say there's actually evidence for this. Because we've been trying to tell philanthropists and nonprofits that this just makes sense, and donor agencies that this makes sense. So I'm very happy that there's research behind this. So we run a 4-year program with these people. And what I want to share is a few anecdotes. A lot of people say adults. So the average person in our program is 47 years old, a male who has been in a government system with excessive apathy for the last 25 years. And so everyone said, there's no chance of changing this individual. There's no chance. It's not going to happen. He's unionized. He's patriarchal. He doesn't care. There's no chance. But there's only one fundamental belief which the staff I used to work with, from which we operate. And again, it's belief. It's not evidence. Which is that all human beings are good and want to do good, but get stuck in systems which cause them to be their lesser selves. We fundamentally believe this, right? And we just need to So I want to just repeat that. So we fundamentally believe that all human beings are good and want to do good, but get stuck in systems where they don't believe they have agency and therefore land up being their lesser selves. And I want to give you an example. There was this one gentleman who enrolled into our program. We today work with over 50,000 schools across India, all the way from Assam to Rajasthan and Jammu and Kashmir to Andhra, across the country. And we essentially work with leaders at the school, block, or district level. And we work with them in a program to develop what we say is their leadership, not their technical capabilities as much, but pure leadership. And there was this gentleman, it's a voluntary program, people enroll into it. And he came into our program and he said, you can't change me at all. For 17 years, I have not been to my school. I'm a union leader and I'm true to show you that this world cannot change. The world is filled with people like me, and it cannot change because we are all self-centered, and that's the only way to live. And he's a union leader. He probably had 5,000 teachers who supported him. That same gentleman, after working with him, I said, the very fact that you're coming and speaking to me probably means that you're not completely sure that that's the only way to live. Yeah. And he said, no, 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 I am sure. The same gentleman now is one of our biggest advocates to believe that compassion exists in the world. So I believe that in the most extreme circumstances, this exists, and especially in this country, it just exists slightly below the surface. And you just need to scratch a little, and there's just compassion that's going to flood out. I want to give you an example of a lady who came into our program. She was the wife of one of the school leaders. And I was wondering why, family members are getting involved in this. And she came and said, and I want to say this in Hindi and then translate it for those of you who appreciate. She's from Rajasthan, and she came and told me, "Aapne kya kar diya mere mister ko?" What did you do to my husband? So I said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't know, but can we share it?" So again she says, "Pehle wo ghar pe aate, to rajniti ke बारे में बात करते थे और चाय मंगवाते थे. अभी वो घर पे आते हैं तो पहले पूछे कि तुम कैसी हो." Right? And so the translation is, she says, before when he used to come home, he used to talk about politics and ask for tea. He used to put his legs up and ask for tea. Today he comes home and says, "How are you doing?" to his wife. Right? So every individual is capable of changing, absolutely capable of changing, and systematic programs for educators are key if we really want to expand socio-emotional learning. Not just for children, but for educators and adults. And I think we'd be very happy to collaborate with Emory, with universities across the world, to see how can we systematically create it in adults, in order that adults can now serve children. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, such an inspiring program. And thank you for your commitment to collaborate with us. We will definitely reach out to you. We will need your collaboration to bring this program here in India. That concludes our presentations here. And we literally have 4 minutes left. And Your Holiness, we are so sorry that it ran very long, but would you have any message, any kind of final thoughts, remarks?
Today, I'm going to the Gagagita, any Turuguna Shayarwa. In Georgia, you have church. That's all right. That's just the Ganda. Georgia, you have a Georgia made a rich. She Ganda. She do the game, the government getting a space to Chashana. That space is married up Nagasa Chashana. Then Georgia, you married. She do the game, then it gave a church in Georgia.
Tradition itself, there is an understanding that whatever comes through causes and conditions, that is bound to it, that it's bound to change. So change is something that is innate in whatever comes through causes and conditions. Although in the Indian philosophical tradition, there is also an understanding that there are certain phenomena which are called permanent phenomena. They may not be subject to change, but the others are subject to change.
Because the cosmology,
no.
Whole universe changing. And then we, human being, very tiny thing. So naturally changing. Okay. So nothing. I think one. I very much appreciate, but one obvious change is when we first come, our stomach full. Now empty. We are thinking quite seriously about our lunch. That also a sign of change.
Thank you, Your Holiness, for your presence this morning, for these long, long hours here. We deeply, deeply appreciate your presence and guidance and the wonderful inspirations and the insights you have provided us. I would like to also thank our panelists for the presentation. Presentation's short. And with that, we will conclude the session with Raviji.
We'll now break for lunch, and which is being served in the pre-function area in the courtyard. Please find your coupon in the badge. It's just behind. Keeps turning around. I think it keeps showing the coupons. That's where they are. That's all the meal coupons. Can we come back by 1? We have a very interesting program lined up for the afternoon, including panels with teachers and students who've been engaging with C-learning. As I said, the detailed program is in your bag, so please be back in time. Thank you.
One brief announcement. Kindly be seated until His Holiness exits the conference hall. So thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.